This is our 8th class on chapter number 1 of the Mandukya Upanishad. We will be trying to recapitulate just a few points from our earlier class so that we get a link. In our last class, we were discussing the Prathama Pada of Atman. We remember that the Upanishad started with the 4 padas of Omkara and then 4 padas of Atman. Pada means quarter, or as we said very simply, dress. So we were in the Prathama Pada of Atman, of the self, the first quarter of the self, first aspect of the self. Prathama Pada means consciousness associated with the waking state, or the first quarter, or the first part, or the first aspect, or even the first design of our dress. This Upanishad wants us not to differentiate the individual from the universal. Hence, it is talking about both the individual called Vishwa and the collective called Vaishvanara to explain this standpoint. So, the word Saptanga that we were going to discuss is used by the mantra number 3. We ended our class with our question: if the Atman associated with Vishwa or the individual gross body also includes the Virat or the gross universe, if the individual includes the gross universe, then why the Upanishads speak of individual's realization, individual's transmigration, etc. about individual? We probed into the Upanishadic texts why it is making an issue of no issue. We saw that it is due to our own mistake of seeing the unreal as the real that the Upanishad is trying to wake us up to our own real nature. It is trying to break our sleep, bring us to our normal consciousness. Anyway, we have to touch one more word which is left out in the mantra number 3, and that is what we have said, Saptanga. It indicates that it is talking about the whole universe, gross universe. The collective growth attribute, that is what is called Samashti Sthula Upadhi. Samashti means collective, Sthula means gross, and Upadhi means attribute or which is superimposed on the consciousness. We sometimes call it an adjunct or addition, that's okay. So it has got Saptangas, 7 divisions or 7 parts. It is endowed with 7 limbs, that is the meaning. There is a mantra in the Chandogya Upanishad in which this Virat, this universal form of the gross Atman, is described with 7 limbs. These 7 limbs are like: the head of this Virat is the heaven, the eyes of the Virat is the sun, the mouth is the fire, the vital forces, the pranas, they are the air, and body of Virat is the space. Like that, they have enumerated 7 limbs of this whole gross universe. These 7 limbs are described in that mantra. We do have a similar mantra in the Mandukya Upanishad also, Agnir Murdha, like that. Agni, fire, is the head, like this. These are meant for meditation, upasana, meditation on that universal form of this Atman. So that is the last word that we promised to deal with in this class. Now we go to the second state of our being, of Atman, and this second state is called the dream state. So the earlier gross state is called the waking state, and that waking state thinks the gross universe is created by the Creator God. But now we are entering into a state which is created by us. We are the creator, because it is my mind which creates my dream universe. So we are the creators of this universe. So we go into that state which is called Swapna Avastha, dream state. And the mantra says, I will chant the mantra first and then I will translate it. Swapnasthano antapragnaha saptanga ekonavingshati mukha pravivikta bhuk taijasaha. And that is dvitiya pada. That is the second part. So the meaning is Taijasa. Now we got a different name. Earlier in respect of the gross body, we dealt with a name which is called Vishwa and combined that with Virat or Vaishwanara, that is the universal form. So both of them are one and the same in the gross universe. Here in the dream universe, which is subtle, the name of the individual is Taijasa, and the universal totality of all Taijasas together is called Hiranyagarbha. These are names. There are meanings behind them in Sanskrit, but that will not be a translation. That will help us philosophically. That is why we keep the names as they are, Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha. Taijasa is the second quarter. That's the mantra. That's what the mantra is saying. Swapnasthana, that is Taijasa, whose sphere of activity is the dream state. Dream state is Swapnasthana. And that is the sphere of activity of this Taijasa, which we will be calling as the dreamer afterwards, for the sake of our understanding. The word Taijasa will be difficult to remember, so we will call it a dreamer. And whose consciousness is internal. The earlier part we said that the consciousness was turned towards outside, Bahishpragna. But here consciousness is turned inside. Who is possessed of 7 limbs like before and 19 mouths, that also was there in the earlier verse, mantra. And who enjoys the subtle objects. Earlier we said that the Virat or Vishwa in the gross body enjoys the gross object. Here, with the help of the subtle mind, this dreamer enjoys subtle objects. And this is called Dvitiya Padaha. This is called the second quarter or second design of my dress. So every season I have a different design of my dress. One is a summer dress, another is a winter dress, another is a spring dress, like that. So dresses change and therefore I look different in different seasons. In this mantra, which deals with the dream state, we will see that it speaks of the same consciousness. We have to remember this one thing, that we are not talking about different consciousness. We are talking about the same consciousness, which is manifesting its presence in and through the state called dream state. Same consciousness, same I, put on different dresses. So seasonal I am the winter I, the summer I, the spring I, the I don't change. The mantra has almost all the words indicating an individual subject or the individual mind. Two words which are special, they are meant for the universal or collective mind. That is same Sapnasthana and Saptanga. Swapnasthana means the dream state and Saptanga means the seven limb. So, but the whole mantra is mainly indicating that both the individual and the collective, they are one and the same. So, the individual is called by the name, we will remember, Taijasa, and the collective is called by the name Hiranyagarbha. Let us look at the words that speak of the individual in the dream state. It says that it is Antaprajna. In the first part, we said that the design of my dress was called Bhaisprajna, or consciousness turned outside. Here we are calling consciousness is turned inward. In the dream, my external world of gross manifestations has been turned off. This we have to follow very, very carefully. In the dream state, my external world of gross manifestations has been turned off, completely shut down. Therefore, what I experience here is nothing but the world that is projected by my own mind. What I see in the dream, that is the creation of my mind. We will use the word projection instead of creation because it is almost like a cinema movie. The light coming through the moving film projects the movie world on a white screen. You may see there on the screen fire, water, blood, etc. But the blood cannot stain the screen. After the movie is over, you cannot find red color on the screen. After the cinema is over, you cannot find that the cloth is wet because there was water flowing, big river, ocean. After the movie is over, you will not find that the cloth is burnt, but you saw lot of fire on that. It reminds us of this great verse Sri Krishna told, that this is that Atman which the fire cannot burn, water cannot wet, and blood cannot stain. All these things he said. Even wind cannot dry. So this is same thing. It is just talking about that Atman. So this is a very, very familiar thing. Now, this film example of the mind we have to keep in mind, but this is in both its individual and collective form. And we move to the next word. These things will be more clear afterwards. It says that consciousness is turned inside. We have to remember that consciousness is not finite. Consciousness is infinite. Therefore, it has no internal part or external part. That we discussed in our earlier class. This word is being used here to mean that the dream state is happening inside the body. We may go to Tokyo or to New York or to London in the dream, but it all happens in our body. It is in the mind. This we will keep in mind. Then next word says that the Taijasa has 19 counters or doors of experiences, as we said in the earlier mantra about the Vishwa, the gross body, gross individual. The number of doors, etc., we mentioned there, so they are similar. I am not recounting them. But there is a difference between the physical universe and this subtle universe. The difference is that in our dream we have the similar but not the same set of sense organs. That means in the dream we have eyes, we have ears, we have nose, but they are not useful in our waking state. Similarly, see, the eyes of the waking state are useless in our dream state. And similarly, the difference is there between the ear and the eyes. Eyes cannot hear, ears cannot see. These are the similarities. Eyes cannot hear, the ears cannot see. That happens in our gross body also. And that is the same thing here in the dream state. But the difference is that the eyes in the dream state are never the eyes of the waking state. They are already closed, they have gone to sleep. And why I am using these things, all will be settled or rather thrashed out and well spread out by Gaudapada in his Karikas, and we will also take up some portion of that. Like in the dream we see with the open eyes, not with the closed eyes. The same experience, eyes have to be open to see things in the dream, but they are dream eyes. So this is the dream state. We have to keep these things in mind, the differences, because we will be comparing all these three states, and then we will thrash out the differences. The physical sense organs are created by God. We have to remember. That's what one point was very important. And the dream set of sense organs are created by us. Everything that is there in the dream are created by us, not only the sense organ. The I consciousness in the dream state is also different from the I consciousness of the waking state. The ego will be different. And therefore it is called a different state, pravivikta bhuk, the enjoyer of something different. Pravivikta, which is different, clearly different. These objects are different from the gross objects of the sthula sarira or the gross body. These objects are not available for my neighbors. What I have in my dream, these objects are my own objects. My neighbor who is sleeping next to me maybe will not have any share of these objects, will not have any share of my eyes in the dream. So this you cannot share it with anyone. It is a subjective universe. So it is called a prapancha, which is prapancha means a complete creation, fully created. That is what is called prapancha. It is a creation by me. I can claim to be a creator, but it is created by an individual, a jiva. And the next word is Taijasa, that is the name of the subject in this dream universe. So the sensory motor organs, all these things are also different. Now, in the dream state, what is the thing by which we can actually experience? That is why the word Taijasa has been used. Taijasa means bright, effulgent, etc. though it is the name of the subject there. Because in the waking state, there are so many things to illuminate the objects of experiences. So many things to illuminate the instrument of cognition. The sensory and motor organs, like the eye will be aided by the light of the sun, light of the moon, light of the lightning, the light of electricity. All these aids are there to help the mind to, or the eyes to cognize things. In dream, what I experience, when I see with the eyes, what light is there that I can see? There is no sun, no moon, no stars, no lightning, no fire, no electric light, etc. This is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I just translated. Even other places also. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam niyama vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamimam vibhati. So there is no sun, no moon, no stars, no lightning, no fire, no electric light. What to speak of this ordinary fire? Therefore, in dream I see with the light of the Atman, Swayam Jyoti. Atman, that is the light which I have, this is within me. So that is said in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There is a chapter called Swayam Jyoti Brahmana. Swayam Jyoti means it is self-effulgent. So here Taijasa or the subject means the consciousness associated with the dream state, and it has got the same 7 type of head and ears and body for meditation like the earlier one. This is called the second design of my dress. What is the difference between the first design and the second design? There is no difference in the consciousness, we have said. And this consciousness is I, me. But the difference is there in the dress. One may be called the summer dress, another the spring dress, like that, suppose. There are differences in the design of my dresses. But I remain the same I. The fields are different, but the knower of the fields is not different. But unfortunately, this knower is called by different names. See, we have called it Vishwa, we have called it Taijasa. This poses a deep-rooted problem. When the names are different, we will immediately understand that the persons are different. This is our practice. Our names are different because we are different. We are different persons. That is why we have different names. If the same person uses 2 different names, then there is a big problem. Problem for the police, problem for the administration. Therefore, we think that the waker and the dreamer are different. One is Vishwa and another is called the Taijasa. So names are different, so they are different. It is a confusion or an error. What do you say? You may say, no, I suppose my name is Rama in the waking state. I do not think that I am different in the 2 different states. Even though you call me by 2 different names, like Rama the waker and Krishna the dreamer, I don't think like that. Suppose I am Swami Baneshananda. I don't think that in the waking state, the person I and the dream state, the person I, we are different. Really? You are really the same person? Then you are lucky. You are lucky because you can add to your bank account the whole amount of money that you have won in the lottery in your dream. 1 million euro you won in your lottery, in your dream as lottery. You are the same person. You can add that amount to your bank account and check with your bank if the amount has increased by 1 million. Still, for the sake of argument, you may be right. But let me offer a counter argument. In the waking state, the consciousness is the same as the consciousness in the dream state. That's what I have told. The Upanishad has said. It is you. There is no disagreement. The consciousness is one and indivisible. All of us agree to this. Then what about the different names you use to identify different people in the same waking state itself? Consciousness is indivisible. We accepted that. I am the same person. And it is called the Vishwa or Taijasa, universal or individual. So then why in the waking state itself you have so many names? John, Jack, Jill, Harry, Johanna, etc. Are they not one and the same consciousness? No. Why? Because they hold different passports. They are not same. And that is the convention. Shankaracharya says, Loka Vyavahara. That is how we transact in this world, behave in this world. And this is the so-called practical truth. Things become very complicated here due to our worldly transactions which contradict our truth. We cannot polish up unreasonable practical behavior by hiding it behind sophisticated philosophical interpretation, which is wrong anyway. The Upanishad will surely prove its position as to why it takes up this subject of analysis of the three states, individually and collectively. But we have to wait. We have just learned to stand up. Then we can walk. Then we can learn how to run. Just wait. Upanishad moves on and takes us to the mantra number 5. Because we have to go a bit further. Until and unless we know the third one, we will not be offered with convincing argumentation. Mantra number 5 is a wonderful mantra. I will just chant this mantra and then I will give the translation. Yatra supto na kanchana kamang kamayate na kanchana swapnang pasyati. Tat susuptam. Susupta sthana eki bhutaha pragnana ghana eva anandamayaha hi anandabhuk cheto mukhaha pragha tritiya padaha. This is a wonderful verse. That state in deep sleep, where the sleeper does not desire any enjoyable thing, does not see any dream, desire any enjoyable thing of the waking world, does not see any dream too. The third quarter is prajna, who has deep sleep as his or her sphere, in whom everything becomes undifferentiated, everything merges as a dense mass, who is a mass of consciousness, who abounds in bliss, who is surely an enjoyer of bliss, who is the doorway to the experience of the dream and waking state. A lot of psychological ideas have been spread all over this mantra. We have to look into each and every statement that this wonderful mantra makes. The mantras number 5 and 6 contain narration of the third quarter or the third design of my own dress, maybe the winter dress. Mantra number 5 deals with the third part from the point of view of the individual, called prajna, and the individual in the sleep state. And mantra number 6 from the point of view of the collective or universal, called Ishvara, the Creator God. The definition of prajna is the consciousness connected with deep sleep state. You see, the word consciousness is never left out. This is always there, and one connection plus the mathematical sign plus is there. Consciousness plus the deep sleep state. The first quarter was called the waking state, consciousness plus the waking state. The second quarter, dream state, consciousness plus the dream state. And this is deep sleep state, consciousness plus the deep sleep state. Now the Upanishad defines the deep sleep state. It did not define the waking state. You have to remember. When we discussed the waking state, we discussed the dream state. We did not see that the Upanishad itself defined those states. But here the Upanishad takes up that definition. Because those two states are clear to us, we can understand them. The waking state is that in which the objects like sound, etc. are experienced by the sense organs like the ears, etc. And the dream state, what is the dream state? Dream state is that in which the mind replays or reruns some of the impressions that have been experienced in the waking state. And some impressions may be there which have been experienced in the waking state in the earlier lives. This Upanishad did not give that much importance to the dream state on which the whole modern mental science has built up its luxurious net, or better, network. Well, let me tell you why some things are called luxurious things. There is an economic secret, maybe one of the secrets, behind creating luxurious things. And that is, there are some people who have more than enough money but have no wisdom how to put to use those money in proper manner, thoughtfully. These people may create trouble in the society because of the misuse of their money. The luxury goods, which are highly and unreasonably priced, are meant to arrest money from such people. Anyway, the Upanishad here has taken up the deep sleep state seriously, which appears to be hazy or even unknown to many of us. As a result, many may think that in that state there exists nothing. What to speak of the views of people in general? There are big philosophers who say that there is nothing in deep sleep. Nothing means shunyam, zero, mathematical zero. That means there is no consciousness also. They are the Shunyavadins or nihilistic philosophers of Buddhism. And also, of course, the atheists or non-theists like that. That is why the Upanishad says that the deep sleep is not non-existence, but it is the whole universe in its potential form. I need to explain this word potential here. Later on, we will see that while discussing the three theories about the origin of the universe, Vedanta will agree that after dissolution, or after a catastrophic end of a cycle of the universe, as they call it mythologically, like the Noah's Ark, etc. idea. It goes back to another type of a potential form. Here one type of potential form, and there another type of potential form. This potential form is a huge condensed mass. Nothing can be destroyed, hence cannot be created. So from that potential form, the individual beings or the universe do not wake up like we wake up from our sleep, but are rolled out anew. A new universe is created. But here from our deep sleep we wake up to our waking state. We are not lost in that sense. So there is a big difference between these two potential forms. Anyway, now the question is, if in the deep sleep the whole universe is in its so-called potential form and not lost, then why don't we know it? Like in the dream we know, we see the dream, we can remember the dream. In the waking state everything is proved like that. We don't know it because there is no scope for applying the system of knowing or cognition. The three divisions of the subject, object and the instruments of knowledge, which are called Triputi, they are merged into one undifferentiated dense mass. The knower, the known and the knowledge, the experiencer, the experienced and the instruments of experience all have become one dense mass. The duality of the knower or the duality of the knower and the mind and the objects ceases to function. That duality ceases to function. These three are not able to play their roles. That is why experiencing or knowing, as we understand in the waking state or in the dream state, that is not possible. Nothing is lost. Everything stays in their potential form, in their unmanifested form. That is why the same person returns to the waking state or dream state with all the earlier knowledge and differences. They are not lost. So it is not that they are not there. They are there but we don't know. So the question, how do you know that it is there in the undifferentiated form, as you call it, nirvikalpa form? We know because the next day or any time when the sleeper wakes up, he or she remembers. What does he or she remember? I slept well. I did not know anything. The first argument is that if there was nothing there in the deep sleep, then the distinctions of the three participants will not be revived. You will not come back as you were before going into sleep. Then we will not like to sleep. We will lose everything. Our knowledge, our English knowledge, German knowledge, all knowledge will be lost there. And we come back just like dumb fellow. Don't know anything. Therefore, it is sure that there was the existence of these three in a causal form. This is called potential form. So, in the deep sleep, then the mantra says that the sleeper does not desire anything of the external world, does not enjoy anything of the internal world of the dream. So, but this does not negate the existence of all these three divisions, like the subject, object and the instrument, they are in potential form, they are not lost. And here the Upanishad says, Yatra Suptaha, where, in which state, Suptaha, the person who sleeps. Supta means the sleeper, the self-ignorant person. That is what is the meaning of the Suptaha. The person is ignorant about the self. Now the word Supta is there in all the states. So here he uses it just to say that the same Supta who was in the waking state, who was in the dream state, is same Supta here. Supta means sleeper. Means self-ignorant person. This word bears a very great significance. There is a big difference between the sleeper and the meditator. The meditator also does not desire any external object and also does not see any internal object, but he or she is not sleeping. The meditator is meditating, not sleeping. That is why Swami Vivekananda has said, a fool going into sleep comes out as a fool only. But when a man goes into samadhi, if he goes into it a fool, he comes back a wise person. He or she comes back a wise person, an illumined soul. This is the difference between sleep and meditation. So this person in meditation is not in sleep, but in self-awareness. Whereas in sleep, the person is not aware of the self. The self is there, the consciousness is there, but this person is not aware of the self, is ignorant of the self. That is why we call it self-ignorant person. It is one thing to say that I am not aware of it, another thing to say that it is not there. See the beauty. So it is there, but we are not aware of it. If you are aware of the self, if you know that you are the imperishable conscious reality, then you are convinced about the temporary effects of all temporary things and experiences in this world. You know that they do not affect you in the long run. Then you are in meditation even when you keep your eyes and all the sense organs open. Then it is safe to keep the eyes open in meditation, in this meditation of a realized soul. Then only it is safe to keep eyes open and meditate. This is the strong ground of Vedantic psychology. You can see your mind as distinctly different from you. You will be able to know your mind, its ailments, emotions, etc. as a separate observer, as the therapists are. You will become your own doctor. And that is the whole of modern psychology in effect. The difference between the modern psychology and the concept of Susupti in Vedanta is that in Vedanta you found the doctor in you, and in psychology you are asked to become your own doctor, as it were, for some time. This, as it were, is not there in Vedanta. It says that you are the doctor of your mind because you are separate from your mind. This state provides us with a scope to compare the three states. Now, the word supta or self-ignorant is mentioned here in the case of sleep state only. Actually, this word, as I have said, is there everywhere. The same self-ignorant person is the waker, because in the waking state we don't know ourselves. In the dream state also not. So, in whatever state we are sleeping. We are asleep to our real nature. We are forgetful of our real nature. So we are called the same self-ignorant person in all the states. Now let us look at the constructions of these three states and we have to compare them. The waking state means the consciousness plus the waking state. And what are the participants? The gross universe. The subject, the sense organ, then the waking gross world, they are the participant. Now let us remember what we told about the waker, the subject. The waker is self-ignorant waker. It is called jiva. What is the composition of this waker? The waker is consciousness plus the mind. The dream state is equally the consciousness plus dream state, and the participants are all created inside the dream state, and that also the subject is self-ignorant dreamer. The waking state, waker. The dream state, the subject is dreamer. Both are self-ignorant because they are still in the states. Now in the deep sleep state, the subject is called the sleeper, the self-ignorant sleeper. And the earlier two states, the waker transacted, interacted with the gross world. In the dream state, the dreamer transacted, interacted with the subtle world, subtle state. Both are self-ignorant. And in the deep sleep state, the same self-ignorant person is called sleeper, and it does not interact with the state because there is no state, all condensed mass. So this is the difference here. Self-ignorant person is the same in all the three states, but the states are there in the earlier two states, dream state and waking state. In the deep sleep state, there is no possibility to transact between the subject object. This we have to remember. So what are common to these three states? Self-ignorance. What are common in these three states? Self-ignorance. Remember, this word is very tricky. This word is self-ignorance. Self is there, but we are not aware of it. So self-ignorance does not mean we are stupid. What is the difference in the three states? In the deep sleep state, there is only the self-ignorant subject in the deep sleep. In case of the dream state, the self-ignorant subject plus the dream state. In the waking state, the same self-ignorant subject plus the waking state. So dream state, waking state, there, deep sleep state is not there. It is condensed. So the self-ignorant person is similar, but dissimilarity is here. So now we go another step. The three, the sleeper, the dreamer and the waker, they are different because their states are different. We have to remember that the jiva is called the subject, the waking subject, waker, dreaming subject, dreamer, the deep sleep subject, sleeper. I made a statement that the three, the sleeper, the dreamer and the waker are different. This we have to investigate. It is very interesting. We take the first two states, waking and dreaming. Let us compare. Because in these two states, the waker and the dreamer have their own separate worlds of experience. And for their interaction and transaction, the world is there. Now let us take up the dream state first. This is a state in which the consciousness is associated with the dream world. It is a state which is not gross but subtle. It is a state which is within us only. It is a state created by the individual, whereas the waking state is created by Ishvara, the creator, and we created utility values in objects created by God. Now let us look at who are the participants in the dream state. Who are the three parties in the dream state? The subject, the object, and the instruments for the transactions. Where does it happen? In the mind, inside the body. The consciousness is turned inward. Who is the subject in the dream state? The dreamer. It is called the dreamer. So in the dream state, the subject is interacting with the dream world with the help of the subtle instruments, the sense organs and the body. In this state, the body is subtle, the sense organs are subtle and also different from the gross things. But the dreamer has its own dream eyes, ears, etc. But what you see in dream, with the dream eyes, the waking eyes cannot know. Please remember what we said. What you hear with your dream ears, even your very dream eyes cannot know, what to speak of waking eyes, waking ears. The differences are there in many respects. Now the question is, in the dream state, who is sleeping? The dreamer. In the dream state, dreamer, that is why he is sleeping. Hold your breath. Even though the name is the dreamer is the subject in the dream state. So, the dreamer is awake. The dreamer is awake in the dream state. It is not sleeping. Who is sleeping? That fellow. The waker is sleeping. The dreamer is awake. Is it not like saying hot ice? How are we to swallow this statement? A big contradiction? Isn't it so? On the one side it is the dreamer and on the other side it is awake. You see, Upanishad made an issue out of no issue. The mother is telling the sleeping child, arguing with the sleeping child. He is sleeping but still arguing. Here this case is same. Don't you think it is wrong? If you say yes, then you are wrong. The Upanishad will tell. The dreamer is the experiencer in the dream state, so it cannot sleep then. It is awake. The subject cannot sleep, so the dreamer is awake. Then who is sleeping? The waker. The waker is sleeping. The waker of the waking state goes to sleep, and then alone the dreamer of the dream state wakes up. So who is sleeping when the dreamer takes over? Obviously the waker. Clear? Yes. Do you accept it? Yes, we accept it. Then you have invited more trouble for yourself. A big trouble. It's a trap. You have been entrapped. See, let us now inquire. Who remembers the dream? When the waker wakes up, he or she remembers the dream. Isn't it so? Is it not the experience of every one of us? Yes. It is everybody's experience and there is no doubt about it. And the Upanishads will always analyze my experience, your experience, what we have told. It will not analyze anything that is not experienced by us. Clear? Now let us remember that the waker was sleeping at the time when the dreamer was dreaming, experiencing the dream. Dreamer was awake. Let me repeat. The waker was sleeping when the dreamer was awake. So what the dreamer was seeing that time, the waker should not know. When the waker was sleeping, the dreamer was awake. Like when John was sleeping, then Jack was awake. Clear? And to add trouble to this, we know that when the waker is awake, the dreamer is not there. Dreamer is not there, dreamer is gone to confirm the dream. When John is awake, Jack is not there to confirm any of his or her dreams. Do you get the point? The waker was sleeping when dream was going on. How does the waker know? How does the waker who was sleeping when the dream was going on with the dreamer remember anything of the dream? That is, how does the waker John who was sleeping when Jack was dreaming is allowed to remember anything of somebody else's dream? How do you remember my dream? The first thing is that the waker is not the dreamer. Second thing is that it was sleeping during the dream. Then by what logic can we say that the waker remembers the dream? The waker remembers the dream. We know our own experiences create our own memory. Then we can remember the experience from our own memory. Then how come that the waker has memory of the dreamer's experience? How come that John has memory of Jack's dream? Well, please remember the special word by which we called the states, the Vesham in Sanskrit. That means the dresses. Each state is a dress. What does a state include in it as its participants? The subject, the object, and the instruments. In the waking state, the waker, the gross objects, etc., etc., we have said that. So the waker is part of the waking design, the dreamer is part of the dream design of our dress. All right? Now it is time for us to undress the dressed person, to remove the stress states. Who remains? The person, the pure consciousness, free from all the states. Who is this person? It is you in your purest form, a stateless you. A stateless you. No, don't understand it wrongly. You are not a refugee, not a stateless person. You are the refuge, the shelter, the security, the sanctuary, the home of all creation. You are the reality behind all unreal dresses of yours. This pure consciousness is the connecting link between the states. This you are the witness in all the three states, not the waker you, not the dreamer you, not the sleeper you. You which is different from all these states, because waker, dreamer and sleeper, they are part of the states. So that is one thing which is common. And remember the sentence I said in one of our earlier lectures. I know that I know an apple. So two I's, the last, I know an apple. I am the knower. The apple is the subject and my knowledge is the instrument. That I is the waker, dreamer and sleeper. But the earlier I know that I dreamt, I know that I was awake, I know that I was sleeping. So the first I know, that I is the pure consciousness, and that is you in your pure nature, not in your states. You are a stateless, not a refugee, but a refuge. This is the idea the Upanishad wants to convey through this. We have not finished with this mantra, but we will take it up further, and then we will take up the other ideas about the second type of potentiality that we will take up in our next class. Thank you very much. We have crossed our time, but it had to be finished this way. Thank you very much.